So hey guys, thanks for joining me for another video and welcome to the Random Watch Dude channel in what will be one of the last videos that I make during the course of 2024. It's been a big year actually. This is the first full year that I've had my channel. Started the channel in November 2023, and look, thank you. I just wanted to say thank you before I carry on into this video. I just wanted to say thank you very much to all of you who have supported this channel throughout the year. It's been a big year for the watch industry, I guess, and for me as a collector. It's been a big year. I've had some big milestones during the course of 2024. And what I wanted to do during the course of this video, guys, is I wanted to talk about, well, 5 categories of how I would define 2024. And I'm going to go good, bad and ugly, because you can't have a video that doesn't have the good, the bad and the ugly. But I'm going to put a top and a bottom to that. I'm going to put a top which is amazing, and I'm going to put a bottom which is disaster. Okay guys, so let's start with amazing. What was the most amazing thing that happened in 2024? The most amazing thing that happened in 2024. And a lot of you, I think, that follow my channel will probably know what was the most amazing thing that happened in 2024. And I'm not talking about me personally, I'm talking about in the watch industry. And this is purely my opinion, of course, because I know that there are many of you which are going to disagree with what I think is the most amazing thing to happen in 2024. And it is the Rolex Deep Sea in gold. So why is the Rolex Deep Sea in solid gold, which was released at Watches and Wonders, why is that the most amazing thing that happened in the watch industry, in my opinion, in 2024? Well, I'll tell you why, guys. I'll tell you why. And I think it's just to do with the fact that, you know, we're in a kind of a cycle in the watch industry where everything is starting to feel very samey, isn't it? Everything's starting to feel very much, oh, well, you know, we've seen this before and it's just a slight iteration on something else that's been done before. And yeah, the Rolex Deep Sea is a watch that's been around for a very long time, but for Rolex to release that model in solid gold, the Rolex Deep Sea, a dive watch in solid gold, with that absolutely amazing blue dial and blue ceramic bezel, I just think, guys, it's the most ridiculous thing that Rolex have done in a long time. Nearly as ridiculous as the Emoji Day date, not quite. But what Rolex did when they released the solid gold Deep Sea is they broke every rule in the book. They broke every rule in the dive watch book, and I just think that's amazing. I just think it's fantastic, and look, hats off to them. Everybody criticises Rolex for being boring and samey and just releasing iterations year after year after year, and I think the Rolex Deep Sea in solid gold is an amazing watch. Well done, Rolex. So moving on, guys, to good. What's the step down from amazing to good? The good stuff that happened. You know, what was the really good thing that happened in 2024 in the watch industry for me? And I'm going to say Tudor. Tudor, guys. I think Tudor absolutely chewed it up this year. They absolutely chewed up the year of 2024. They had a really, really good, strong year. In fact, I would go as far as to say, of all the watch brands, of all the big watch brands, Tudor were probably the only manufacturer that had a good year. Why did they have a good year? They re-released or released a new iteration of the Black Bay 41, a watch which I've owned before. I owned the slightly thicker slab-sided Black Bay 41 in red. Lovely watch. Now they released during 2024 a slightly thinner version. They upgraded the movement and they just made some refinements to that watch. They also put it on a what was it, a 5-link bracelet, like a Jubilee style bracelet. I think that was a nice touch. And then of course they released it in black after they released the red at Watches and Wonders. Later on they released the black also in monochrome. And that is as near as you will get to a Rolex Submariner, guys. That really is. That is as near as you'll get to a Rolex Submariner. And it has the classic looks of like maybe the 14060 sub, not the up-to-date modern ceramic sub. And I think they did a fantastic job, particularly with the monochrome version of that. Of course, they also released the 58, the Black Bay 58 GMT, the Coke GMT, a watch I predicted, by the way. If you go back to November, December 2023, I predicted that Tudor would release a GMT with the Coke bezel, the Coke design, so hats off to me as well for predicting that one. And finally, of course, they released quite recently, later on in 2024, they released the FXD, which is the fixed lugs, the really crazy fixed lugs design watch, and they released that with a GMT function in a really nice combination of colours. I think they've done a great job. So all in all, guys, and they completely revamped, of course, it goes without saying, they completely revamped their entire dress watch range too. So I think Tudor had a good year in 2024, and they top the year when it comes to good. Okay, so that's the amazing and the good, and just a coincidence, guys, the amazing and good for me in 2024 is taken up by Rolex and Tudor. So they're doing something right in my view. You might say that I'm just a fanboy, and I would say that anyway, but no, that's just a coincidence. Rolex and Tudor chewed up 2024 with the good stuff. So let's talk about, we've got 3 categories left, guys. We've got bad, we've got ugly, and we've got disaster. So bad. Who had a bad 2024? And it's not difficult for me. What was a bad 2024 for me was Omega. I think they had a bad year. They tried hard. You know, they released these, well, they started off actually very well, because they have the white dialed Speedmaster, which they released, which I think is a superb iteration of an existing watch. Well done. Can't get hold of one. Tried to get one early on, but was told, oh well, you know, you'd have to be a little bit special to get one of those right now, Mr. Longley. So no, stick it up your ass. No, I'm not gonna go on a waiting list for an Omega Speedmaster. But of course, what they did after that as well, what Omega did after that as well, is they released some kind of special editions. They released the Apollo 12, was it, with the funny, silly rocket needle hand for the seconds hand. Didn't like that. They also recently released a 40mm Apollo. Was that an Apollo 11? Was that again another kind of rehash of a watch that they've done before, where I actually don't like the handset on that watch at all. I put some pictures up here. Don't like the handset on that at all. I think the lume is a little bit too dark. And I think that's one of those watches that you can go crazy over for 2 or 3 weeks. And then when you actually look at it in the cold light of day and the price of it, and think, actually, no, it's not a classic moon watch, is it? So I think that was bad. And of course, the biggest complete schmozzle that Omega put out later on in 2024 was the new, hotly anticipated, highly excitable, we're all waiting for it, we're all sat there on tenterhooks waiting to see what this watch was that Daniel Craig had been posing on his wrist, you know, since about August. And then come late November, what do we get? We get the schmozzle, which is the new no-date Omega Seamaster. I've made a video about that. I'm not going to ramble on about it again here, but I think they've made the biggest cock-up of what was a fantastic opportunity with that new Seamaster. So I think Omega had a bad 2024, and I am an Omega fanboy. I hope it gets better for them. Now we have to talk about the ugly, guys, the really ugly stuff that happened in 2024, and for me this is not a difficult category. Ugly is defined for me, the definition of ugly in the watch industry for me in 2024 is Swatch's determination to ruin the legacy and the brand and the perception of some of Omega's great watches, namely the Moon Watch, by making crappy plastic versions of them. I think what they've done for the Blancpain 50 Fathoms is also really bad, because that watch is struggling as it is. The Blancpain 50 Fathoms, to sort of gather a bit of pace in terms of the people's perception of that watch. And for Swatch to decide to make a plastic crappy version, or 6 different versions of that watch, or 7 is it now, I don't know. I just think Swatch have really created something very ugly in these plastic parodies of what are actually very, very good watches. And I just really wish Swatch would stop doing it. Okay guys, so I'm gonna finish with the disaster. What was a disaster in 2024? And again, for me, this is not a difficult category to pick the disaster. The disaster for, I've got to stop saying all that, I'm sorry. The disaster for 2024 2024 for me, and it's a PR disaster, it's a public relations disaster, was the one and only Patek Philippe, and the guy in charge of Patek Philippe who thinks he's bigger than the brand. What a disaster. So he goes and releases this new cubitus. Whether you like the cubitus, whether you like the way I pronounce it or not, irrespective of that, guys, the watch itself, I've tried it on. I've tried 2 of the 3 models on. Very nice, very comfortable, too expensive, bit weird. But what is the actual disaster when it comes to the Patek Philippe situation in 2024 is the way that the CEO or the owner, I'm not sure who he is, thinks a lot of himself, clearly, has released quite a few kind of sound bites. You know, he's done some interviews recently with magazines and to the press generally, basically saying, I'm an amazing designer. Everybody that I've spoken to about my design prowess has told me that I've got a gift, that I'm really gifted, and I've just got an eye for something that just works, and I haven't got any qualifications or skills in design or art. I just have an eye for what looks right, and everybody around me tells me, all my sycophants and the people that I pay to give me basically good feedback, you know, they're all telling me that I'm an amazing guy. And of course then he follows that up after saying, you know, the reason Patek is successful is because of me, essentially. He follows that up by essentially saying that most of the people that don't like the new cubitus are plebs, can't afford the watch anyway. Now, he didn't actually say they can't afford it anyway, but he basically said he said it in such a way is that was exactly the message that he was communicating, was that most people that don't like this watch can't afford it anyway, so I don't care about their opinion. Now, guys, for a brand like Patek Philippe, this is a disaster. This is an absolute disaster. Why is it a disaster? Because Patek Philippe are in that kind of same category, if you like, as, you know, some of the other really large horology brands. You know, they're up there. I think they're considered, you know, as one of the big 3, if you like, in boutique luxury watch manufacturers. And, you know, one of the things that makes them so desirable is not necessarily the watch itself, but it's also the perception of the brand. It's also the aspirational value that they are purveying to potential customers. So you won't see Rolex do this, and I know people will criticise me for saying that, but you won't see people at Rolex saying, oh, well, the people that don't like our watches can't afford them anyway, so we don't care. You won't hear anybody from Rolex or any of the other big brands, Blancpain for example. You won't hear any of those guys, the CEOs, doing interviews. If they do an interview at all, it will be to talk very humbly, very politely about the market and about their customer base and about their ambitions and about the history and about the legacy and about how amazing their watchmakers are. But you will never hear them talk about how amazing they are themselves and how the brand is basically being held up by them and their amazing decision making and their amazing design ability. Have I rambled on about this long enough? And have I hopefully put the message through that I just think that Patek Philippe, the guy who's currently in charge of Patek Philippe, is a disaster, should be ashamed of himself. He won't be, of course, because all his sycophants will tell him that he's a great guy and he's doing the right thing and he's an amazing designer. But that, for me, guys, that is a disaster in 2024, Patek Philippe, the way they've communicated with the market and the way they've communicated also with potential customers. People that might be in their 20s now and can't afford a Patek, but when they're 50, and they've made some big bucks and they want a Patek, they're going to think, oh yeah, that's the brand Patek that was run by that guy that basically said I was a pleb and a minion that couldn't afford their watch. So now, bollocks to them, I'm going to go and buy a Rolex. Okay guys, so that's the end of the video. Just a bit of fun, I just thought I'd give you the amazing, the good, the bad and the ugly and the disaster of 2024. Let me know what you think. It's just my opinion, just having a bit of fun. Don't take it all too seriously. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks ever so much for watching the video, guys, and thanks again for all your support for the channel. If you do like this video, please like. If you've made it this far through the video, let's be honest, you know, you must like the content if you've made it this far. So why not subscribe? And then we can have some fun together in 2025. Thanks for watching the video, guys, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Cheers.